It began as just another scene, one of countless moments where two actors step into character, guided by the script, the cameras, and the invisible thread of a story not their own. Yet somehow, that day was different, and everyone who watched it felt it instantly, a subtle but unmistakable shift in the air, in the way their eyes met, in the way their bodies seemed to gravitate toward each other as though pulled by something far beyond the demands of the director's call, because when Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun shared that kiss, it wasn't just acting, it was something more, something real enough that fans across the world would replay it, dissect it, and hold on to it like a moment frozen in time, trying to find the exact second where the line between fiction and reality blurred beyond recognition. And for those who knew their story, on and off screen, the scene became a symbol, a piece of evidence in a love story the world wasn't supposed to know, but couldn't stop talking about, because from the start, their chemistry had been undeniable, the kind that isn't manufactured, the kind that slips past the boundaries of professionalism and becomes something almost tangible, and maybe that's why the kiss lingered, why it wasn't rushed, why it carried a weight that scripted kisses rarely do, because in that moment, they weren't just their characters, they were themselves, two people caught in the intimacy of a feeling neither could, or perhaps wanted to, hide, and though the cameras rolled and the crew stood only feet away, there was an unspoken privacy in that moment, as though the rest of the world had melted away, leaving just the two of them, the warmth of the other's breath, the press of lips that seemed to speak a language far deeper than dialogue. And when the director finally called cut, something in their expressions lingered, a softness in Lee Min-ho's eyes, a faint smile playing at Kim Go-eun's lips, both of them aware, perhaps, that they had just created something unforgettable, not only for the drama story, but for their own, and it didn't take long for the fans to notice. Because within hours of the episode's release, social media lit up with GIFs, screenshots, and slow-motion replays, captions filled with phrases like, "That's not acting," and "Did you see the way he held her?" And the more people watched, the more convinced they became that what they were seeing was real, that the way Lee Min-ho's hand lingered against her cheek, the way Kim Go-eun leaned into him as though she belonged there, was not something a script could teach, and soon, behind-the-scenes clips began to surface, moments where they laughed together between takes, where their conversations seemed easy, natural, where a glance could carry more weight than words, and the whispers grew louder, spreading from casual speculation to full-blown conviction that something was happening between them, something neither had confirmed but neither had done much to deny. Because every public appearance after that seemed to carry the same undercurrent, the same quiet closeness that no amount of media training could completely hide, and for fans, the kiss became a turning point, a marker in the timeline of a relationship they were certain existed, and in private moments, perhaps even the actors themselves felt it, the shift from co-stars to something more personal, though they would never admit it outright, and perhaps that was part of the magic, the not knowing. The way the uncertainty made every interaction, every shared smile, every future on-screen moment, feel charged with possibility, and as months passed, the memory of that kiss did not fade. If anything, it grew stronger in the retelling, the way urban legends do, with each fan adding their own observations, their own emotional attachment to the narrative, until the kiss was no longer just a scene in a drama, but a cultural moment for their fandom, something to be referenced in countless fan videos, artwork, and stories, each one trying to capture the emotion that radiated from that single exchange. And in the quiet corners of the internet, theories continued to bloom, some saying they had started dating long before the kiss was filmed, others insisting it was that exact day that changed everything, that the script had simply provided the spark for something that had been quietly building beneath the surface. And in interviews that followed, the actors spoke fondly of their time working together, often praising each other's talent, professionalism, and kindness, but fans listened between the lines, searching for hints, for moments when their voices softened just slightly, when their eyes lit up in a way that suggested memories far warmer than those of a simple work partnership, and whether or not any of it was true, the belief became part of the experience, part of the way fans connected with the drama and with each other, and even now, rewatching the scene brings back that familiar ache, that pull in the chest that comes when something feels both beautifully intimate and slightly out of reach, because at its core, the kiss was a reminder that sometimes the most powerful connections happen when we least expect them, that in the middle of playing someone else's love story, you might stumble into your own, and that is why the moment remains etched in people's minds, replayed in countless homes across the world, whispered about in fan forums and social media. Threads, cherished not just for what it showed on screen, but for what it might have revealed about the hearts of the two people who shared it, because in the end, it wasn't the setting, the lighting, or the perfectly timed camera angle that made it unforgettable, it was the feeling raw and unpolished, the kind that slips past the careful construction of fiction and settles quietly, stubbornly, into the realm of truth. And for Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun, whether or not they ever confirm what, fans have always suspected, that kiss will remain a testament to a connection that felt far too real to simply fade with the credits. A moment that will forever be revisited, retold, and remembered as more than acting, as the intimate Kiss fans can't forget, because some scenes don't just belong to the characters, they belong to the people who lived them, and to the millions who witnessed them, carrying the memory like a shared secret, one that will never truly lose its power. And yet, as time passed and projects came and went, the memory of that kiss refused to fade, as though it had been stitched into the fabric of their public lives, always resurfacing in conversations, in interview questions, in the subtle glances exchanged whenever they found themselves sharing the same space again. And perhaps it was inevitable that the whispers would turn into stories, stories into expectations, until one day, those expectations began to take shape in a new kind of rumor, one that didn't just speak of chemistry on set but of quiet dinners away from the cameras, of a certain ring spotted on her finger during a casual outing, of his presence at events where he had no professional reason to be except for her. And while neither Lee Min-ho nor Kim Go-eun addressed these whispers directly, the silence only seemed to fan the flames, because in the minds of their fans, no denial was as loud as the absence of one. And so the narrative began to evolve, shifting from, "Are they?" to, "When will they?" Until the idea of them together no longer felt like speculation but inevitability, and with each new appearance, every hand brushed too close, every laugh shared a little too easily, the audience, both the casual observer and the devoted fan, saw only confirmation of what their hearts already believed, that this was no longer a story confined to the screen but one spilling over into real life, where the stakes were higher, the emotions deeper, and the ending unwritten. And then came the moment that seemed to seal it, an unguarded photograph taken not on a set, not under the controlled gaze of a production team, but on a quiet street at night, where the two of them walked close enough that their shoulders touched, their heads leaning toward each other in that instinctive way of people who share secrets. And though there was no kiss this time, no obvious display of affection, the intimacy was in the details. The way his hand hovered protectively at her back, the way her smile seemed reserved only for him, and when that picture made its way online, it became